welcome. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell, share the show. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get started. Now that Kamala Harris has officially been made the Democratic National Committee's presidential elect, which that's a story in and of itself, right? After the roller coaster ride that the Democratic Party's put its voters in. Now that she's officially the Democratic nominee, we can now put some things into motion. Now, if you've been listening to my previous shows, I've been saying for a while now that the Democratic Party and the talking heads and the tastemakers and the powers that be within the party have been making it very clear that their intention was to not just get rid of Joe Biden if they were to clear up the ticket, but was to not just get rid of Joe Biden, but to also get rid of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was, in fact, the real problem in their eyes because they wanted to remove Joe Biden because he was becoming senile and breaking down. But they knew that a President Kamala Harris wasn't going to inspire anybody but the black people, really anybody but the black women, right? And they knew that it was going to be a bad show for them politically to remove Kamala Harris also. So they were kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. We can't win with her, but we know we can't win without her. So what do? Especially if we replace her with a white person or with a male or with a whatever doesn't count against our diversity demographic show, right? We can't remove a black female. And when you would hear white people, when you would hear white talking heads talk about this, they would openly talk about it in a mocking and dismissive tone as if they didn't put themselves in this situation in the first place, right? They would talk about it like, oh, well, we can't remove a black woman because they're going to complain, as if they weren't the ones that put the black woman in that position to be a token in the first place. Let's not forget that, right? Remember, as much as white folks try to make the story and make the narrative that Tulsi Gabbard is the one that took out Kamala Harris, that's not really what happened. Black folks openly rejected the idea of a President Kamala Harris, which meant that Joe Biden was the most logical candidate, and they still forced a Kamala Harris in as vice president for a token. But if we remember correctly, Kamala Harris running in the primaries directly coincided with ADOS. Kamala Harris was Yvette Carnell's first real scalp. But when the idea of removing Joe Biden due to mental issues became inevitable, I was beating the drum for a while saying, even though we don't like Kamala Harris, and even though we know Kamala Harris is a token and was selected for black people, not by black people, selected for black people by white society to be a token, it's still disrespectful to black people everywhere in America to pull her from the ticket, openly showing that she was just supposed to be a symbol, right? Now that she's in a position where you have to put her up as the president, put her up as the president, right? And we'll tear her down appropriately, but she's got to get a fair shot, right? It's like the dude that kept robbing the dice game in The Wire, right? This is America. You got to let them play, right? So I have been saying for a while now, if you're going to pull Joe Biden, and you've been letting Joe Biden run for 3.5 years, and let him be president, for 3.5 years, knowing that he's senile, knowing that he's demented, you can't now act like, well, we can't run Kamala Harris as president because she doesn't have any experience. You let a senile, demented person run the office for 3.5 years, and you did pretty well hiding and protecting him. So you could do that with Harris, right? Now, Now that Kamala Harris is in position, and I want to give credit not to black people, but to a specific subset of black people, I want to give credit to the coons. I want to give, and it sounds weird, hear me out. I want to give credit to the Democratic black bootlicks and the boule. I want to give credit to all you Democratic shills and underlings that are black but work for the Democratic Party against the black community. All you Roland Martins, all you guys, right? I want to give you guys your credit and give you guys a nice classy golf clap because you did stand on coon business. I will give you that. You guys had the balls temporarily. Oddly enough, you guys had the fortitude to stand up to the Democratic Party and tell them, if you don't keep Kamala Harris at the top of this ticket when you remove Joe Biden, we are not going to go in there and infiltrate and fool the black community on your behalf. There was a sizable uproar from the black boule class, from the sorority and fraternity HBCU Ricky Smiley class, right? The Tom Joyner cruise was all stirred up about this. And that little threat, you know, you had a couple of hundred black women sign a petition. Those little threats, small as they may be, focused with just a particular crowd of black people, as it may have been, that alone was enough to scare white Democrats into action, because they know that their relationship with black people is you know, shaky at best. That was enough to scare white Democrats into not even daring to remove Kamala Harris. And that shows a couple of things. One, it shows you where power lies, right? Kamala Harris has no friends in high places, as evidenced by how they were going to knife her. Kamala Harris has no real mandate or no sweeping stir of power in any high places. She has no connections with any donors anymore. The donor class was the original class that wanted her to be president, but once they saw she had no pull with the black community or young people, they pulled all their support, right? Kamala was ideally, from a demographic standpoint, oh, she's black and she's a woman, we can really use that as a token. She was who they wanted first until she opened her mouth and showed that she had no charisma. But just the simple act of a few black people who claim to have access to the black vote, threatening not to use that access to the black vote if she doesn't get put up as president, just that little threat put white folks in check and made them act right. And next thing you know, Kamala Harris is your president-elect, right, in waiting. And that's very good. That's very good short term for the coon class. But it's great long term for actual black people, the actual black vote, actual black constituents. And here's why. We've now put the Democratic Party's king in check. This is going to be a very rare opportunity for us to have very open shots at all these coons that have been driving us crazy. All these Democratic shills that have been for years, for decades, putting themselves in the front of the line and saying they speak for black people. Now we're going to have a clear shot at them. This is going to be like a coon Mortal Kombat. This is going to be a purging, a culling of the coons. Because what's going to happen now, and this is, get your pitchforks ready. What's going to happen now is, if it had been any other politician, a white person, a white woman, a white man, a Hispanic, a gay, anybody, they would have had to still come through the black community to campaign, right? They would have had to still come through the black community to campaign. But the tactics and the strategy would have been a little different. Most of the focus would have been on, you would have heard terms like swing voters, middle America, soccer moms. When you hear the word soccer moms, that means middle class to upper middle class white women. Usually middle class white women that drive their kids to soccer practice. Usually white women in the northeastern part of America. Northeastern to Midwest of America. Not really West Coast, not really Southern. Soccer mom. That's a white middle class undecided voter term. There are no, according to white people during election time, there is not a single black soccer mom, right? Soccer mom means white women. If you'd have had any other politician running for the Democratic Party right now, the focus would have been on swing voters, middle America, soccer moms, college educated women, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It would have been about fortifying your white liberal base. But because you have a black person or somebody who's identified as a black person at the top of your Democratic ticket, you are now going to have to make the election about race. And furthermore, about the black race. And further from that, you are going to have to send all your black boule butt-kissing bucks. You're going to have to send all of them to go campaign for you in the black community. You're going to have to send them through the black communities that have been seething at not just the Democratic Party, but at these black boule bootlicks in particular. You're going to have to send them through the gauntlet. Look at what just happened to Roland Martin. See, the Democratic election, the Democratic National Convention is in Chicago. It's right in Chicago. And already day one, you got protests. See, black folks aren't the only people. You know, they call the Democratic Party the big tent party. And every tent in this circus, everybody in this tent is pissed off right now. The whole nucleus of this whole big tent thing is falling apart at the seams. The only people still riding for the Democratic Party is rich white people, middle class white people, and gay people. A few hangers on from like the Asians and some immigrants, but that's about it. The women are wishy-washy. The Arabs are out. The blacks are sitting one out. It's a really bad look, right? It's a really, really bad look. And so you got day one, you got all the Arabs, you got 100,000 protesters for Palestine that you can't avoid. You can't, remember I said a few episodes back how the black civil rights movement, what it did successfully was it hijacked America the movie. Every time you were trying to have a good time as white folks on camera, you're trying to have a parade, you're trying to have a Macy's Day parade or an Easter parade. You're trying to go out and go to the park. You're trying to enjoy a movie. Every time you're trying to do something to show the world how America's doing, all of a sudden here come these black folks doing civil rights protests all on your cameras. And now you got to beat them and hit them with water hoses and it's all caught on camera. Makes America look crazy. That's hijacking. That's photobombing the country. Whenever you have these big events like this, these big national committees and stuff like that, this footage is shown to the world to show how America's elections go down. And they can't afford to have America's elections looking like Brazil's elections or France's elections or some third world country's elections with a bunch of protests and people being dragged off by police. It makes it look very, very authoritarian. It makes the whole democratic process look fake, like it's just for show. Wink, wink. So day one, you got hundreds of thousands of protesters or tens of thousands of protesters, up to 100,000 protesters fighting for Palestine. That's day one. As you're trying to go up there and have speeches about freedom, and this is starting to look like a WTO riot. I'm from Seattle, and for those who remember that WTO, oh my God, it was bad. And you're going to have to go through black communities. You're not going to be able to ignore black people. Like, you've been ignoring black people for 3.5 years after Joe Biden got elected. If you just looked at the black community through the lens of the Democratic Party, black people disappeared the day Joe Biden got sworn into office. And now we're back. We don't know how we came back. We're back, and we're better than ever. And now you got to have us get your vote. And now you're gonna have to go through black communities with people like Roland Martin and Angela Rye, people that are known for talking sassy and talking crazy to black folks from the safety of a studio television set. But now you got to actually go in the streets and debate with black folks. You got to go in the streets and convince black folks. You got to have all these little Jim Clyburn fish fry events in an environment to where Jim Clyburn can't just walk the streets no more. Roland Martin just got ran up on a few days ago. This convention just started. Roland Martin getting ran up on by YouTube niggas. Niggas is popping up and pulling up on people. See, there's nothing better than when you catch an op slipping to where they gotta come to where you're at. They're in your territory. They can't just readily leave. The exits are covered. And you could just pop up, hey, man, what was that stuff you was saying? Excuse me, brother? Yeah. Now they have to confront black folks. There's no more avoiding black people. And I'm not talking about necessarily putting hands or feet on nobody. I'm talking about now you have an opportunity to catch these liars on camera, catch these liars on record, and see. And what this does is this does damage to their brand. All these black folks in politics, black people in politics is very simple and very small-minded. Black people in politics, especially on the left, but also on the right, they've convinced white people that they can speak to black people. I like the way Yvette Carnell says Negro whisperers, right? These are rainmakers. These are people that have convinced white folks in politics that they have some particular pull with their section of the black community, that they have some sort of influence over the black mindset. And that if you give them some money, if you give them some power, they'll go translate it to the Negro tribesmen and get you what you want. Al Sharpton comes to mind. When you start running for office as a Democrat, you got to go through Al Sharpton's little committee and all. We're about to tear Al Sharpton apart. There's no more Coon Sherpa job opportunities where you get to guide white folks through the black community anymore. It's not safe for you. And once white folks start seeing your black ass get ran out of town, once white folks start seeing that you have no pull, no power, no sway with the actual black community, because what these people do is they go grab the weakest, most malleable, most controllable blacks in the community. You go after the older black people, you go after the church black women. That's the crowd you go after. You're not really going after the college educated black people. You're not going after black people that are really on the streets. You're not going after 9 to 5 between 18 and 40-year-old black people that are young minded, that'll actually push back, that are involved in politics, that are living lives that are affected by the policies you guys are implementing. You guys are going after Tom Joyner Cruz black people who really just care that Kamala looks black enough and, is going to be black in a White House chair so they can feel good. That shit's over with. We got our jollies off with that with Obama, and we realized very quickly that that good feeling and that good imagery doesn't translate to much on a tangible level. That's what we got out of Obama. We got 8 years of a good image of black people, which was awesome. It was 8 years of people not being able to say that all black men are lazy with our pants sagging off our ass and a crack pipe in our mouth, right? We got 8 years of what appeared to be a healthy, productive, educated looking black family, some loving black daughters, a beautiful black wife. We got 8 years of the Cosby Show in office. You know, people that say Barack Obama didn't do nothing for black folks or that we didn't ask for nothing, I always like to push back on that. It was our first black president ever. We didn't know what we were doing, and we had very, very simple demands. If you want to see how loving the black community is, tell me we don't support each other. Our only 2 demands of Barack Obama were do not die and do not embarrass the black community. That was it. Don't get killed in office, don't get assassinated, and don't do any embarrassing nigger scandal. Like you mess up the budget, or if there's a war or there's some kind of scandal from like a foreign policy, we don't care about that, right? You blow up a country, you have a Cuban Missile Crisis, that's fine. All presidents do that. Don't get caught humping on some white intern or some shit. Don't get caught with crack cocaine in the White House. Don't get caught doing some niggerish shit. Okay? Have your side chick running out the side office of the Oval Office. Don't do some embarrassing thing that is a stereotype of black people or besmirches the office of president to where they can say, as soon as we let the black guy run the office, here he went and did this shit. Don't do something like that. Don't do anything Bill Clinton did. Don't do anything that Donald Trump did. Don't do anything embarrassing, because they're going to pin that on black people. And we got 8 years with the biggest embarrassing scandal. I'm not talking about any foreign policy or any kind of, him messing up the deficit. Nobody cares about that shit. Regular 9-to-5 working people don't even understand that shit. The biggest scandal Barack Obama got us in was he wore an Easter suit. He wore a tan suit one day. We were totally fine with that. We'll take it. For our first black president, our first dude, our standards were pretty low. We were still getting over the fact that white folks didn't kill him, right? So we were still in shock. So I don't really blame black folks for not really having it together with the first black president. And we used to be a bunch of slaves. Like that's a long way to come. Let us get that out of our system. You never forget your first, right? So I get that. With your second black president, though, after going through what you had gone through with the first and knowing what you know now, black folks are a little bit wiser. We're a little bit wiser. And not only that, her optics, Kamala's optics, aren't good enough to have her in there as a purely symbolic choice like that. You can't do all that blackity black power. It's the first black woman president, the blackity black, when you don't get any of the shit you got with Barack Obama. Barack Obama, you were elected because you got a full black package. You got a well-to-do, educated, charismatic black male, accompanied by his loyal, faithful, beautiful black wife, who was also charismatic and intelligent and looked like she kind of kept him in check. Like, let's say the things that don't need saying. Barack Obama got elected, shout out to Cat Williams, because black folks saw Michelle. Michelle kept Barack Obama's blackness in check. If you were ever like, oh, this is funny as African dude with an African last name. Who? Barack or what? Oh, his wife, Michelle Obama. She's from Chicago. Oh, Michelle. Okay, yeah, bet. Black folks, if you had any doubt about Barack Obama, Michelle was right there. Like, he black. She solidified him. You got an intelligent, suave, sophisticated black male with a beautiful, down-to-earth, grounding black woman, intelligent black woman in Michelle. You got 2 beautiful black kids. See, little things make people fall in love with a presidential candidate personally. Like when Barack Obama came on the screen during the national convention and his youngest daughter, her face lit up and she said, "Hi, Daddy." People don't remember that Michelle had to tell her, "Hush." You saw a regular family. You saw a regular black family. So when Barack Obama got elected, the first words out of Wolf Blitzer's mouth is, oh, there's going to be little children in the White House again. People fell in love with that family. Black folks in particular fell in love with that black family. So you got all the optics. You got all your jollies off on the optics. So when people started talking about policy, you're like, what? I ain't voting for that shit. I'm voting for the Jeffersons in the White House. That's what I'm voting for. And I ain't talking about Thomas Jefferson. I'm talking about George and Wheezy, right? We get George and Wheezy in the White House. With Kamala Harris, you don't get any of that shit. And they're trying to still dress up her whole get up as if it's the same optics as Obama. You can't run on just optics when the optics aren't good. With Kamala Harris, you're getting a kind of black woman. You're getting a blackish black woman with no kids and a white husband. You went to an HBCU and found a white dick. I don't even know how you did that, right? If Barack Obama would have came out Oprah and announced his run for presidency and he would have brought out a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, that would have been the beginning and end of his presidential run. And we all know that. He would not have been able to bring out, Jan Brady to come out there as his wife and she come out, my Nubian warrior. Nah, that shit wouldn't have worked out. And that's exactly what you're getting with Kamala. Now, if Kamala Harris, with her white husband and no kids, if Kamala Harris was coming out with hard policies, let's not even say hard policies for black people. Let's say she had hard, left-leaning, strong policies that the Democratic Party could do that bullshit argument about it trickling down to black folks about. Hey, guys, I'm coming out here with tax breaks for the middle class, free college tuition, Medicare for all. We're ending these wars. We're doing this, that, and the third. Oh, she's a strong, stout, blue candidate, and she's got a track record and a history of doing that when she was Attorney General. Hey, guys, I'm the one that busted up these banks when they had the banking crisis, and I exposed how they had all this corruption. I went toe-to-toe with Citibank. I'm the person that fought against these truancy laws that were going to get people in jail. I'm the Attorney General that refused to prosecute this person and that person because I knew the trials weren't going to be fair to them, and I think Black Lives Matter. Oh, if she could have come out with that kind of record and she came out with that kind of rhetoric, black folks would have been on board, even with a white husband. Even with a white husband. Okay, because her policies show she's down. But when you got somebody in Kamala Harris, and this is another thing, Barack Obama was smart enough. When you catch somebody running for office and they have intentions to run for office, they tend to be very apolitical when it comes to their voting in office. Barack Obama was a senator, and the key thing that lets you know he was about to run for president, the key thing was that he stopped voting on record. And what I mean by that is he stopped voting yes or no on bills, especially ones that were considered controversial, and he would start just voting present. When you start seeing a senator or a congressperson voting present on a lot of bills, that means that they don't want that bill and how they voted on it to come up in their face in an election later on that year. Usually it's office of president. But a person like Kamala Harris, you already have a very, very clear mosaic built that creates your reputation. People know what you're about. People know that you're a goon. You used to be a goon. Goons from a political standpoint, are people in office that have no real political aspirations or they have no real political aspirations or ambitions other than to just be where they're at. Kamala Harris would have been totally fine being an attorney general for another 20 years. Kamala Harris never had ambition to become a president or a vice president. She just does what she's told. She's a cop. Cops are perfect goons in life. Cops have no problem doing whatever dirty politicians tell them to do. They have no problems beating up, arresting, and even killing folks because that's what somebody told them to do. They're enforcers. That's what a goon is. And Kamala Harris is a goon. She's a goon that happened to be elevated to this level because they needed a black person or a woman as a demographic. That's it. You can tell when they ask her these questions about foreign policy, about the border, about the economy, you can tell that she's not even the slightest bit curious about these things. She's never given them a thought. We are voting for a token. We're voting for a talisman. We are voting for a symbol, an empty suit, a placeholder that the powers can, a placeholder that the powers that be can then fill with whatever policies and decisions that they want to make. And if you disagree with them, if you go back against them, if you push up with them, if you show resistance, you're showing resistance to a black woman. You're pushing back against a black woman. That's when you know that your politics, and this is something that we have to admit as black people. Excuse me, keep clearing my throat. This is something we got to admit as black people. Our politics has been completely tokenized and made wholly symbolic as black people, really as Americans, but bold underline italics as black people. And you have to sit there and look at that and ask yourself as a black person, how did this happen? How did we go from being one of the most powerful and big-voiced countercultures in the most powerful country in the world to basically being a mascot for the Democratic Party? How did this happen? And the short answer is that all your real leaders were killed off and replaced in a fashion not unlike some pod people or Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where one by one and seemingly overnight, your MLKs and your Thurgood Marshalls and your Malcolm X's and your Medgar Evers all became Al Sharptons and Clarence Thomases. Those are your real leaders. I'm not talking about your talking heads and your tastemakers. I'm talking about your actual people who actually have political power. Are people that are presented to you and pushed for you by the people you oppose. Doesn't make any damn sense. And the things that you fight for and the things that you get in an uproar about are things that, at the end of the day, provide no tangible difference or improvement in your life. If you look at how these politicians are talking to other groups of people, they're talking about tangible things that they can offer in exchange for that group's vote. When you look at how these exact same politicians are talking to black people or to the black community, they're coming by twerking and eating cookout fish fry, and you wonder why they're talking to us so differently. And then all you need to do is look at the people that are our representatives that are doing the talking. Now, for anybody who's ever been in court, you know that there ain't no worse to feeling than being in court and your lawyer ain't shit. The person that you've signed paperwork saying, I'm putting my life and freedom in this person's hands to speak for me. And you look at your lawyer and it's clear that they're not up to par. And you look at your prosecution or you look at your opponent's lawyer and they look like damn Perry Mason. And you're like, oh, damn, they got Matlock. I'm in trouble. Look at your representation, black folks. Look at the leaders. See, too often we look at the worst among us and go, that's why we're at the bottom, and that's why we're not competitive, and that's why we're not taken seriously, or we don't get any respect. We look at drug dealers and gangbangers and prostitutes and rappers and shit and go, that's who we are. That ain't the problem. All the gang members and drug addicts and drug dealers and criminals and prostitutes and miscreants and fools in the black community represent a small number of black people. When you actually add the numbers up, it's a small number of black people. And none of those black people have any real sway over the world at large or the black community specifically. They're just criminals, all right? But then you look at our politicians. You look at our talking heads in the media. You look at the black people that are supposed to be pushing policy for black folks around the country and for black communities. You look at those black people that are supposed to be our talented 10th, right? They're supposed to be our HBCU educated black boule lawyers and all that shit. You look at our top-notch black people, and these niggas just work for white folks. That's the real problem with the boule. White folks have the Illuminati, an evil, clandestine, shadowy organization that works to make moves from behind the scenes, right? A big time hidden hand. They're powerful. I'm not saying this is a true thing or not a true thing. I'm saying that's the narrative, right? There's some big, mysterious hidden hand making moves from the shadows. They all meet at a grove, and it's all the presidents. They have all these kind of weird owl rituals and all this shit. That's the narrative with the Illuminati, right? That it's the most powerful people in the world conspiring together. And then you look at the boule, which is supposed to be like the black Illuminati, right? You look at the Nigganati, and these niggas are like middle management, lower management guys that work for white people. They don't even have an agenda on their own. It's not like it's the most powerful black people in the world conspiring to do things to the black. No, these niggas just do whatever white folks say. What a pathetic conspiracy, right? Like, what a pathetic existence. Like, that's your Illuminati. That's embarrassing. Every other group, they have their most powerful people conspire together to sway the lives of their masses. That's how it works, right? The most powerful Asians, the most powerful Chinese people work together in order to make the lives of the average Chinese person a certain way. Same with Mexicans, same with Arabs, same with Japanese, same over in Europe, especially over here in America. But the most quote unquote powerful black people in the world, the most powerful black people in the most powerful country in the world, these niggas are basically like the third key shift at like a Safeway. Yeah, they got no power. They fighting for crumbs. They fight each other for crumbs. They have no idea how to sway or how to wield this power that they have, which is the alleged control of the black vote. And what we have this election cycle is an opportunity to show white folks, to show the white powers that be that are employing these black bootlicks, that these black bootlicks have no sway over the black community. And I've said this episodes ago. I said what we want to get to. I told you this day would come, and here we are. I said what we're going to get to is a point to where the black boule and the black bootlicks and the black leadership class is going to have to demonstrate to their white handlers, to their white masters, that they can control the black community, because that's where their power comes from. The only reason white folks keep them around is to secure the black vote, because they're told that's what these niggas can do. And once it gets shown, I've told you guys a million times, once it gets shown that these people can't control the black vote like they tell white folks they can, they're out of here. This is their last hurrah to prove to white folks that they're still useful. This is their last hurrah. See, when Obama got elected, a lot of black bootlicks were able to ride high off of that wave. A lot of black bootlicks. Like, you think niggas was making money off Obama selling jeweled, bedazzled Obama t-shirts? No. Niggas in office, niggas in the political sphere made a lot of money telling white folks that they were Negro whisperers and that they could help them get the black vote. And they know what black folks is thinking and how to talk to black folks and what black folks. And now it's getting exposed. Nigga, black folks don't even like you. You don't even look comfortable around black folks. You're not in touch with black folks. You might have a couple of cousins or something like that you talk to, that you visit in their neighborhood every now and then. But you're wholly uncomfortable around black folks. And now, worse than anything, black folks are more politically aware, slightly, and are aware that you niggas sell us out on a regular. And you got to come back to that neighborhood talking about, hey, y'all gonna vote for Kamala. We got to stand up for this sister. Ain't you the nigga that lied and said we was going to get funding? If we voted for Biden, get him. It's not safe for these black coons. You want to see how low on the totem pole all these black people in political office and all these black bootlicks are? Remember during the January 6th riot? And this is how funny it is. During the January 6th riot, they kept talking about, oh, this was a threat to our democracy and America was under attack. And then, you know, the one thing that they don't never talk about during January 6th riots on white TV? The only senators that were really, the only politicians that were really in any danger were the black ones. Nancy Pelosi and all them folks was fine. They was all in a safe room somewhere watching the chaos on TV going, this is tragedy. The only people that were under real danger from a giant mob of white, zip-tied, rope AR-15 toting crazy white folks with Patriot hats on, the only people in office that were under real danger was the black senators and congressmen. The emergency buttons were cut. Somebody gave up their actual office location. Jim Clyburn snuck into his office to go do some coon work late in the afternoon, and he saw all them white folks in his secret office. He was talking about who gave up my location to my secret office. Apparently, he had a fake office that he would go do, you know, public appearances in and stuff like that. And he had a real office that he would go do his quote unquote work in. I don't know what the hell he's doing. That he would go do his work in. And when he went into his work office, they were, how you doing, nigger? He was, oh no. Like, the black politicians were the only ones that were really under danger and had to run fleeing for their lives. That goes and shows you that even as a congressman or a congresswoman or a senator, your black ass is bottom of the food chain. So you know how expendable you are. You know that your power, the one thing keeping you clinging on to power and to life, is the idea that you have some kind of sway with the black community, and the Democratic Party needs it. And once that becomes exposed, that you don't really got it like that with us, when people start seeing demonstrations of you getting ran up out of neighborhoods and you getting ran up out of meetings, two things are going to happen. One, they're going to move you out the way. Okay, you can't do it for us. Two, this is what I like to call the get me the Ghostbusters moment. Anybody who's ever watched a Ghostbusters movie, the Ghostbusters get arrested or get dogged out. They get painted as frauds. And then there's always the scene where all hell breaks loose and there's ghosts flying through the city and shit. And they're talking to the mayor. Like, mayor, we're going to get the armed guard to come down here. He's, no. Get me the Ghostbusters. Now he needs the guys that can fix the problem. Now the question's going to be, okay, if you black bootlicks can't get me this black vote. Somebody's got these black folks stirred up and upset at y'all. Who is the person or people that are swaying the black vote right now? Get me them. This is the most desperate times for this party that I've seen since since Bill Clinton's impeachment. It's the most desperate times I've seen for this party. No, this is the most desperate times for the Democratic Party since they lost to Ronald Reagan and only won one state. This could be potential Walter Mondale era for them. This is post Watergate for the Democratic Party. This is really bad. This is really bad. And the main pillar, I don't give a damn about a big tent party. That big tent don't stay up without a big black pole called the black vote. And you're at risk of losing your black vote. This is all hands on deck for the Democratic Party. If you can't get the black vote, to center around your candidate who's supposed to be a black candidate, you are screwed as a party. That means all symbolism hope is lost now. You was just doing the electric slide not but a few presidential cycles ago. 2008, white folks was doing the electric slide, bumping a change is going to come, arm in arm with their black friends from work. Things were beautiful, right? And now in 2024, you can't get them same black folks to come out for your next black token. That shows that things are sliding very bad. And this is very good for us as the black community. They're going to have to send out their coons and we're going to eat them alive. A lot's changed since 2008 as far as media. You're not going to be able to just go on MSNBC no more and do your little 10-minute segments and swear to white folks up and down that you're the blackest black that's ever blacked and you know all the blacks. No, you're going to have your YouTube. You're going to have to go out in the streets. You're going to have to go. It's not just a simple thing. Oh, I went to a couple of barbershops. Black talking heads, they treat dealing with black people to white people. They treat black whispering like how niggas treat filling out their unemployment form. Like, oh yeah, I looked for 3 jobs. I couldn't find one. I need my check. No, you're going to actually have to put in work to get this black vote. Because if Kamala don't win and the black vote don't look shored up from what it normally is, that's going to be on you, black bootlick. It's going to be on you. And ironically, the funniest part is the number one thing. Well, the number two thing. The number one thing is people's disappointment and disillusion from how you did us before with Barack Obama. But the number two thing that's making it so difficult for you to shore up black voters is something you caused, which is this gender divide. You've been told by your white handlers to promote black women and separate black women from black men politically, to make black women a special character, right? You're a special black. And it's gone to a lot of black women's heads. And it's discouraged a lot of black men. So now you got this little rivalry going politically, and you've made it clear that Democratic policies, that the Democratic Party policies you're putting in are for the benefits of black women and not black men. So now you've made it to where the black men feel like this is not our party. So any shaming tactics that you're going to do, it used to be simple. You used to be able to pump up the women, shame the men, and then have the women shame the men. And then the women will drag their men to the voting boule, to the polls, and there you go, right? That's not going to work this time. The men and the women aren't even talking to each other. So you go to black women and, hey, make sure your man comes out to vote. I ain't got no man. I don't need no man. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. No. We need your man. We need you and your man to show up to vote. You can't promote two groups of people, really one group of people, but you can't promote two people splitting off from each other and being opposite from each other and then demand that they come together temporarily for something that only benefits one of them. You're going to have to court black men completely separately from how you court black women. So right off the bat, you've doubled your work now. You've doubled your work. And it's not you having to worry about black men going and voting for Trump. You have to worry about black men coming out and voting. You got to worry about black men coming out and voting at all. Any black person, male or female, that doesn't vote is going to count as a vote for Trump. And any black person, male or female, that actually physically votes for Trump is going to count as two votes. A vote not for you and a vote for Trump. That's doubly bad. This election cycle is going to come down completely and entirely to black people. This entire campaign, not just from Kamala's standpoint, but also from Trump, because Trump's going to be able to see that getting a few more black votes is going to allow him to steal the election. This entire election is going to come down to black people. And bootlicks, like I said, this is your last hurrah. This is your chance to show that you have sway with the black community. If them numbers come back, if Donald Trump wins and them numbers come back bad, they look and they see, oh, the black vote went from 97% Democrat to, oh, now it's down to 90. Now it's down to 87. Or the men trailed off. Or any of that shit. That's going to be put on you, Al Sharpton. You, Angela Rye. You, blonde-haired black woman from MSNBC whose name I forget all the time. Right? You niggas are going to be who's going to catch the blame because you've been telling white folks, you've had one job this whole time. We've let you hang around with these weak-ass MSNBC shows that don't nobody watch. Tiffany Cross. We've let you, oh, Joy Reid, that was her name, the blonde-haired one, Joy Reid. We've let you hang around with these weak-ass politics shows that, I mean, we can look right on the ratings and see, don't no black person watch your show. Don't no black person watch y'all niggas. I've never, ever heard a single solitary black person talking about, hey, man, you hear what happened on the Joy Reid show tonight? Nobody says that shit. Those shows are for white people to say that they have black. When you hear certain types of white folks say they got black friends, they mean the host, like the black host on an MSNBC segment. That's about it. These people tell white folks what they say black folks are thinking, what they say black folks feel. And they're about to see, these white folks are about to see firsthand that these black folks, the Joy Reid, Al Sharpton, Angela Rye, other bald-headed black girl whose name I forget that was working with Joe Biden when he was running for office, who tackled a nigga on stage. These people have been telling white folks that they're hip to what the black folks are up to. That's why they're hired. That's why they're there. And when it gets shown that they're not, when it gets shown that they're scared to even deal with black folks, when it gets shown them get yelled at by black folks and like real black folks, actual black people. I'm not talking about the hood or the ghetto. I'm not talking about actual 9-to-5 blue-collar black folks that aren't controlled opposition black folks like what they put on TV all the time. When you see actual black folks and how black people really feel about immigration, how black people really, really feel about inflation, how black people feel about the jobs that are out there, the cost of living, democratic policies, how they feel about having a black female, like, really niggas don't care. When you see how black folks really feel, black folks unfiltered, and you see that these black people that they put in charge got no power, they're all gone. And white folks are going to instantly be looking at making new black bootlicks getting the black folks that do got sway, that do got voice over black people, getting these black folks to sell out or creating new black bootlicks or washing their hands of this situation entirely. They'd love to be able to switch to Hispanics, but that hasn't worked yet because Hispanics be wanting to be Republican. But they're going to have to find new black bootlicks, new black people that have sway over the black community because these guys are not cutting it. Roland Martin been in Chicago one day, already got ran the hell up on. Remember, a lot of black folks don't know, Roland Martin already got kicked out of white society for slipping Hillary Clinton the answers to a debate. And they said, that's not your black ass job, nigger boy. We didn't tell you to do that shit. Lost all his little journalism passes and shit. All his press passes. Roland Martin's been trying to get back in the good graces of white folks ever since. A lot of you young folks don't remember Roland Martin when he used to be up. Let me tell you young niggas, bro. Go back and look at old 1994, 98 CNN tapes of Roland Martin. Roland Martin used to be balling. Roland Martin used to have he used to always have a new silk ascot, a little thing around his neck like Fred from Scooby-Doo. Nigga, his waves used to be popping. He wasn't even that fat back then. He was plump, but he was healthy. He was healthy. Nigga was always G'd up. His little stutter was smoother because he had more confidence. This is Roland Martin. He wasn't doing all that fast, cluttery Hampton J. Pig shit. This nigga was smooth. He be doing whole segments in damn Hugh Hefner robes and shit. He was having a ball with them white folks. Now he's no longer in their good graces. I knew Roland Martin was on the outs and his money was bad when all of a sudden his S-curl went away. As soon as his S-curl dried out, I said, oh, they done got him. They done got Roland Martin. This nigga's waves used to look like damn Nat King Cole. This nigga's S-curl's gone. Oh, this is bad. Roland used to be having a ball. And he's trying to get back to that level. YouTube is purgatory for this nigga. He got to argue with regular YouTube niggas. I done gotten arguments with Roland Martin. Roland Martin's reachable as hell now. You can leave a comment on Roland Martin's YouTube page and get a reply right back in 10 minutes. Screw you too. Like he's real reachable. You should not be able to touch a Roland Martin. These people, these black bootlicks, are about to have to go through a challenge of the light brigade. They're about to go through a suicide gauntlet dealing with all these black cities. White folks is about to put them on a march of death because white folks ain't going in these black neighborhoods to talk to these black people. White folks are very well aware of how black folks really feel about the Democratic Party and about elections in general and about this president and the next president and presidency and the country. White folks are well the hell aware. That's why they're going to send their bootlicks to do their dirty work. And it's going to be good television seeing these niggas get the business wherever they go. This is the stuff they normally keep off of TV. I done seen Al Sharpton get ran up on before. I done seen all these people get ran up on before. And now we're not going to be able to avoid it. We want to see this. We want to see this. This entire election cycle is all just about black people. And that's our goal. We want to make sure this election cycle, if you want to use black people as tokens, if you want to use black people as symbols, we're going to make you pay for that shit. We're going to make you pay for that shit. We're going to get every black issue put out on Front Street right now, since you want to use black folks as symbols. And what our goal is, what I've told you our goal is this whole time, is to expose these bootlicks, expose these boule coons as having no sway over the black community. And that's going to put the Democratic Party and really this whole scam, because the Republicans and Democrats work together. I've told you a million times. It's going to put this whole scam on blast. It's going to put this whole thing in disarray because they're going to realize if they don't have their good Negro friends in the boule to depend on, we're flying blind out here. How do we rope the black people back in? They're going to have to throw out some kind of policy to get y'all back on board. Signing out.